What is up, Packers fans? Welcome into our Pack-A-Day podcast live, post-practice show. I'm your host, Andy Herman. I'm really bad with introductions and with naming things that probably don't need names anyway. But thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you guys. We're going to break down everything that happened at Packers-Seahawks practice today. And then once we're done, I will get to as many questions as I can. Should have about 30 to 45 minutes here, and we'll try to get through, again, as much as possible. It was an interesting day at Packers practice, to say the least. A lot of skirmishes, a lot of fights, some good stuff for the offense, some really good stuff. What I would almost attribute a little bit more to Seattle's defense. JSN had a day for the Seahawks offense. We will get through all of that in just a moment. I want to start with the good. I actually thought Malik Willis throughout the course of the day had a really impressive performance. Now, a couple things on this. One, give him a ton of credit. He's going up against the Seahawks defense. He's the backup quarterback. It's a non-ideal situation. Generally, you're missing some wide receivers. And he went there and he, in this practice, and just balled out. And it wasn't what I would consider, like, for the most part, like within the scheme of the offense, balling out. It wasn't, 3-5 step drop, ball out of his hands in the rhythm of the offense. But that dude just went out and made play after play after play. I mean, 3 or 4 times he bought time, scrambled around, got to the sideline, and then threw it up. And credit to the tight ends who we're going to talk about in just a moment. But every single time, Luke Musgrave, Tucker Kraft, just coming down with catch after catch after catch after catch. And Willis putting it in some really impressive spots too. Had a couple really nice. He had one play to Musgrave down the right sideline where he kind of bought time a little bit, and then threw this one on an absolute rope just outside of the fingertips of the defender from Seattle. It was Reek Woolen, actually, one of their best players, right outside of the fingertips of Reek Woolen. And Musgrave goes up and gets it right along the sidelines. One of the prettier throws of training camp in totality. Some really impressive stuff from Malik Willis, just navigating the offense. And on a day that at times was very tough for the Packers offense, I thought Malik Willis did everything he possibly could to continually and consistently put his team in positions to be successful. A lot of times off script, off platform, off the run, just making it happen any way that he could. That was a big time performance from Malik Willis. And then following up on that, Luke Musgrave. I've said it a billion times. The idea of Luke Musgrave has been better than what we've actually seen on the field. Today, we saw stellar Luke Musgrave. That was the best we have seen him in any practice, in any game, in any preseason game, in any family night. That is the best Luke Musgrave has ever looked. He was coming up with catch after catch after catch, dangerous down the field, up the seam, down the sidelines, on ad-lib plays, just all over the place. Caught everything his way, some contested catch stuff along the sidelines, the big play that we talked about, 35 yards-ish over Reek Woolen. I think even on the 2-minute drill, I think he had one over the middle as well. It was by far and away in red zone drills and 7-on-7s, which we're going to talk about momentarily. They did not go well. Musgrave had a touchdown in that period. He was fantastic. That was, again, by far and away the best day that we have seen from Luke Musgrave, and hopefully a sign of things to come from Luke Musgrave moving forward, because if he can be that, he had such a different layer and dimension to this offense, and really makes it so that you want to go into more of those 2 tight end looks, with Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. So that was a very exciting aspect. And then the other player that tore it up all throughout practice, that probably would have been the player of the day had it not been for one play, was Tucker Kraft. Unfortunately, that one play was a tight end screen that was well executed, gets, probably 8 yards, 10 yards on the play. And then unfortunately the ball comes out, he fumbles the ball, and Seattle recovers it. So a big negative on that one play from Tucker Kraft with the fumble, which is his 3rd or 4th of camp so far. But outside of that, Kraft was darn near unstoppable in pretty much everything he did, from red zone to the team drills to like everything. It was just, there was a portion of practice early on where it's like, oh, completion to Tucker Kraft. Oh, another completion to Tucker. Oh, there goes Tucker Kraft. Like, it was just over and over and over and over again. And for about the first, 45 minutes of practice, it really looked like it was going to be Tucker Kraft as the player of the day, up until the point where A, he had that fumble, and then B, Malik Willis and Luke, specifically Luke Musgrave, really had an incredible remainder of practice. But it was a really good day for the tight ends, and in particular Kraft and Musgrave. And Seattle just had no answer for it whatsoever. No matter what they did, corners, corners, safeties, linebackers, they tried everything on Green Bay's tight ends, and nothing was really working. And those two just kept winning all day long. And that was one of the real positive takeaways. Of course, one of the negatives that happened at practice was all of the fighting that was taking place. Just unfortunate. I thought the Colts and the Packers did a really great job of avoiding all of that. Not so today at practice. You probably have seen them if you've been on Twitter or social media. There's numerous videos of all the skirmishes that took place. There were 3 in total, 2 that took place during practice, and then a pretty minor one that took place kind of after practice. The 2 that took place during practice, though, those were no, just walk over, just a couple little, pushes and shoves. Like, these were intense haymakers thrown, guys getting in legitimate punching stances. Like, this was a good old fashioned brouhaha from both of these teams. Benches clearing, big skirmishes, guys getting thrown up against a fence. I mean, this was some big time fighting stuff. And on one particular, it looked like on the first one, it kind of came out of nowhere, and then it just escalated. And Zach Tom was throwing punches everywhere. He did not finish practice. It felt like that was in regards to him throwing punches, obviously. Elton Jenkins gets thrown to the ground. I think it was Messiah Swinson who's laying on the ground with Seahawks on top of him. Like, it was ugly. That was one of the uglier fracases that I had seen at any training camp practice or anything like that. It got out of hand very fast. And then just as it felt like cooler heads were going to prevail, they get the, different offense and defense out there on the field. They run a few plays, things had calmed down. A few plays later, I think it was Messiah Swinson. It was either Swinson or, London that were involved in it again to begin with. And then Anthony Belton's getting down in a stance. There's more punches being thrown. I was surprised that Belton didn't get thrown out of practice, to be honest. Again, I do believe Zach Tom got not kicked out. He was just along the sidelines, but I think he was banned from participating. There were 2 Packers that did not finish with the number 1 team. Zach Tom was one of them. We're fairly certain that was due to the fighting issues, because he was throwing punch after punch after punch. But he did have his helmet still and everything a little bit after it. But I think that was the situation there. Elton Jenkins, I believe, did come back to practice after that, but he did not finish with the practice with the team. So I don't want to speculate that there was an injury. He was involved in the fracas as well. So it's possible that they sat him down for the day and just said, "You're done" as well. I don't know the full gist of it, but a lot of chirping all throughout practice. And then at the end, players going back and forth as well. Just really trying to get in each other's faces. And yeah, it was not the prettiest scene in the world for a family training camp atmosphere, but that's football too. It's a violent sport, and these guys are probably on high alert. Roster cut downs are in a couple days. Everyone's ready to go out and actually play real football. And you're probably just reaching that point of like, everyone's done with training camp. I mean, I think even at the end of today, like, I think everyone along the sidelines was just like, all right, I think we're done here. We're ready for the regular season to start. And today, of course, as I failed to mention, was in fact the very last day of training camp. So this was it. There should be a couple practices open to the media next week that are still full-ish practices. But as far as open practices to the media, to the fans, today was the very last one. But definitely clouded a bit by the different fights and fracases that took place around. I will say this. After that second fight, I asked Rob Domofsky next to me, I'm like, what's the over-under on how many more fights in this thing? Because there's probably like 45 minutes left at that point. And him and I both thought about 1.5 was the correct over-under. And I would have said 1 for sure. Like, there was for sure going to be 1. And it would not have shocked me if like there was one more like right after that and they just had to end practice. That's how bad those first 2 were. Thankfully, they got through the rest of practice without having any more skirmishes until, again, like a pretty minor one at the end of practice. But thankfully, cooler heads mostly prevailed through the remainder of that practice. I do have to give a lot of credit to the Seahawks defense. I thought they were pretty shut down in coverage for a good chunk of it. And really the running game too, it's tough. There's no live running game or anything like that. So it's always a little bit tough to tell. But the Green Bay did not seem to get much going in the run game at all. And in the passing attack, I mean, there was a ton, and I mean a ton of pass breakups from Seattle's defense. Specifically, where Green Bay really struggled was the 7-on-7 period. And I'll say this, I thought the beginning of practice was a pretty good outing for Green Bay's offense. And then they went through a pretty ugly lull in the middle. And then I thought at the end they kind of picked it back up as well. But it started really with the 7-on-7s with Jordan at quarterback and just the offense not being able to do much. Love completed to Josh Jacobs on the first play, then had a couple incompletions in a row, including a corner out to Luke Musgrave. So he started 1 for 3, but with basically a check down and no yardage. Then there was a pass breakup by Seattle on an attempt to Matthew Golden in the red zone. Then there was a touchdown to Tucker Kraft finally. Isaiah Nair got a rep with the ones and absolutely cooked the Seattle corner. I didn't see who it was, but Love missed him deep on that one and couldn't hit him. But Nair beat him. He's a player to keep an eye on, by the way. Then there was a pass breakup over the middle by Seattle's defense. Love to Musgrave for a touchdown on a crosser. Then Love tried to force one over the middle to Malik Heath, but tons of traffic there and it fell incomplete. Love to Golden, who tried a spectacular one-handed catch in the back of the end zone, but couldn't come down with that. Pritchett broke up a pass for Romeo Doubs short of the end zone. Love tried to find Sims, and it was another pass breakup by Seattle's defense. And then, so that was the end of basically 7-on-7s. I think it was like 4 of 12 for Jordan, with 2 touchdowns would be my guess. I had this noted somewhere here. Give me 1 second. It was 3 of 12 passes in red zone. 1 completion was a 13-yard touchdown to Tucker Kraft against Julian Love, an 8-yard touchdown to Musgrave, and then that check down to Josh Jacobs. So only 3 of 12 in 7-on-7s for Jordan. That was Jordan's only work on the day against Seattle's defense because of the thumb injury. And then right after that, that was when the Tucker Kraft fumble took place. When they went to team activities, Malik Willis went back in at quarterback. Then Willis went to Josh Jacobs on an out route. Jacobs dropped that pass. Then Willis threw a beautiful fade to Romeo Doubs in the end zone. And Doubs either mistimed it or couldn't come down with it, but should have been a catch. I mean, it could not have been thrown any better and was right there for Romeo to go get. And Romeo just could not come down with it. And then like right after that, Brandon McManus missed 2 of his field goals. And it was like one of those where like you're in the middle of practice and there were just 2 big fights. Your offense got completely shut down in 7-on-7s. And then you had team activities, which resulted in a fumble and 2 drops basically. And it was not going well for Green Bay at that point. So that was the disappointing portion. Again, I thought at the beginning they were much better. And then I thought at the end it kind of, settled in a little bit. I should mention here that there are 2 sides of practice going on, right? So there's Green Bay's offense versus Seattle's defense. And then there's Green Bay's defense versus Seattle's offense. And you basically have to pick your poison. You can't be at both places at once. There's just an impossibility. So I chose to watch Green Bay's offense through a good chunk of the day. I know there are a lot of other people that were watching Green Bay's defense that I'm going to go back and review in totality all the notes and everything from that so that I can get a better feel for that. I do know that per various reports, including from Mike Spofford, that JSN was pretty much torching Green Bay secondary. And first of all, JSN's an incredible player, right? So you have to tip your cap on some of those. I don't know what the defenses or the coverages were, but I do think that has some fear of what, is potentially could happen for Green Bay's defense. I think the corners in totality are a good group of corners. But when you run up against the JSNs of the world, the Justin Jeffersons of the world, the Amon-Ra St. Browns, etc., the best of the best, that's where I think there is some concern going into this season of, are they going to be able to stop those type of players? And today, for the most part, the answer was no. Now, no Nate Hobbs, no Xavier McKinney. Xavier McKinney did return to individual drills. So that was a good sign, a really good sign for Xavier McKinney. But in team drills, no Nate Hobbs, no Xavier McKinney. Like those are 2 very important players for Green Bay's pass defense. But it did sound like JSN got the better of Green Bay's secondary on multiple occasions throughout the course of the day, up until 2-minute drill to end the day for Seattle's offense. And I think it was like a 3rd and long, either 2nd long or 3rd and long. And Sam Darnold goes deep right side to Jackson Smith and Jigba. And Evan Williams ranges over from center field, reads it perfectly, and makes a beautiful interception, kind of over the shoulder interception to pick off that pass and end that 2-minute drive. So that was easily one of the plays of the day. and a big time play for Evan Williams. So good way to end practice there. Matthew Golden absolutely smoked a corner in a one-on-one route. That was fun to see during the one-on-one periods. He continues to impress. Didn't do much in team activities throughout the course of the day, but on that one-on-one was pretty impressive. I mentioned keep an eye on Isaiah Nair. He had a couple plays where he won pretty easily off the line of scrimmage and should have had some big completions. I think it was Willis. It was either Willis or Clifford that missed him. I think it was actually Clifford that missed him on one. And then it was Love who missed him in the red zone period of 7-on-7s as well. As I mentioned, the run game really did nothing. Those were kind of the key takeaways for the day. Again, Brandon McManus did miss 2 field goals, just some ups and downs, some fighting, some good stuff from the offense, including Tucker Kraft save for 1 fumble and Luke Musgrave, who had big days. Malik Willis looked really good. And then, again, from what I could tell on the defensive side, some positives for the defense. Kamal Haddon had a couple pass breakups, but Jackson Smith and Jigba, 3 different touchdowns, I know, on the course of the day back on that other side. So I'll have to go back and review a lot of the notes a little bit more, and we'll break down everything on tomorrow's show that happened in totality and break it down in great detail. But those are sort of your must-knows from Packers, Seahawks joint practices today. With that, I'll try to get to as many questions as I can over the course of the next probably 20, maybe 30 minutes or so, and then we'll kind of go from there. If you want to make sure your questions get in, definitely get those super chats in. Not sure how many I'm going to be able to get to in total today, so just make sure you get those in. All right, Craig, Andy, everyone says we keep 9 offensive linemen on the 53. I can see a situation where we only have 7 offensive linemen on the initial 53. Why? No one will pick up Monk, etc. We could put them on practice squad and call them up 3 times each. Thanks. 0% chance they keep 7. If they keep 7, it's because they're going to claim 2 guys on cut downs or waivers or trade for somebody at some point. But no, first and foremost, I think, Craig, what you need to know, and I know you're saying like you can call some players up, but you actually get an extra roster spot basically by having an 8th offensive lineman active on game days. 7 is insanely thin. I do think that there is some, potential possibility that if Jacob Monk's not ready to go, you do end up in some really interesting waters. And I think they're going to have to be very creative, but there was 0 chance that they go with 7 offensive linemen on the 53. Now on cut downs for like a day as they transition over some of their roster, could there potentially be some possibilities there? Sure. But my guess is there's at least 8 offensive linemen to start, and then they can maybe make some swaps on that a little bit later. I like the overall thought process, but you're getting extremely thin. And you just have to remember, like, teams don't let go of offensive linemen. So you might say, well, just claim somebody or whatever. That gets dicey because teams do not waive any, everyone can keep 9 or 10 offensive linemen. And if you have good ones, you hold on to them for dear life. So sometimes you just have to kind of keep what you got. And I would be a little bit wary for Green Bay if all of a sudden they released everybody and didn't have anyone to fall back on. So I think they'll be a little bit cautious there. Thank you for the super chat, though. Same thing to you, R.R. Smith. Makes me feel good to hear about Musgrave. Sounds like the tight ends did work. They very much did. Also, please use your growing power and get Gutekunst to get Parsons. I'll thank you in advance. $10 on me for a beer. Well, thank you for the super chat. I don't know that I will have Brian Gutekunst's ear on any trade-related matters, nor should he ever want to listen to me. But we'll see. We'll see if he's ultra-aggressive or kind of stands pat. My guess is, based on what we usually know, he will stand pat, see what his team can be, and then maybe make a move at the trade deadline if he feels he really needs to do something. Finally had some cheese curds. I'm addicted now. Hey, there you go. Always a good thing to get some cheese curds in your blood. That's character building, and it's just good for the heart. I would say 10 out of 10 doctors would recommend daily doses of cheese curds. I'm pretty sure on that. I'm not positive, but glad you enjoyed them. Now you got to get some Luigi's pizzas as well. Let's get to the top of the list here. At some point, I will get to some member chats as well. I wanted to get to this one, though, because it was one of the first chats that got in here. I know Negler says regarding contracts, it's not your money, so stop getting mad. But help me get over the Banks contract. I'd rather have Ryan, who will probably walk now, who's younger, better, and more versatile. I think the thing I would say here, Nathan, is let's let this breathe for a second. I know that he is a little bit banged up right now, which is, it is what it is. Guys get hurt. It happens, and you have to kind of work through it. For all we know, Banks could be back at practice next week. We don't know or have any indication that this is anything long-term. And by the time the season starts, he could go in and be one of Green Bay's better offensive linemen. When I graded him out based on this past year, I had a better grade on him than Sean Ryan, and he would have graded as one of Green Bay's better offensive linemen. It was a huge upgrade from Josh Myers, who they had starting a season ago. So I think to give up on Aaron Banks at this point or to say the contract is bad or anything like that, I think is just way too premature at this point. Now, if he ends up not being good and there's real serious problems there, then yeah, it'll look like a really ugly contract that you could have used to re-sign some of your own guys like a Rasheed Walker or a Sean Ryan instead. But we'll have plenty of time to discuss that if and when that actually comes to pass. Right now, he's banged up. He's looked fine, I would say, at camp. Nothing egregious, nothing terrible, but nothing great either. Let's see how he looks come regular season. Hopefully he's out there week 1 and playing some really good football. And they're going to need Aaron Banks throughout the course of this season. And I think that should be noted as well of like, hey, if you're going to get offensive linemen, you're usually going to, that are starting caliber, you're going to have to pay a pretty penny for those guys. And I would feel extremely nervous right now if Aaron Banks was not on this team. Now, maybe they signed somebody else, right? But if it was just Walker, Morgan, Jenkins, Ryan, and Tom, and your next guy up is Anthony Belton, I would feel extremely concerned about the depth of this team. So does that mean he's worth the contract? No, he's going to have to go and earn that still, but I still think it's very premature to say that it was a mistake or the wrong use of money. I think we need to give that a hot second to breathe and kind of evaluate as the season goes along. I don't know about Ryan being better than Banks. Way too early to tell on that. Ryan has been very available though, comparably. Ryan's been good. Ryan's been good. Looks like the busiest team on the field today may have been the Brown County Sheriff's Department. A lot of whistles today at camp. So yeah, a lot of just trying to separate players for sure. Andy, barring new injuries, how confident are you that we are 4-0 going into the bye week? Pokey, I saw you ask this to Aaron Nagler yesterday, and I answered your question in chat on Aaron Nagler's Packers Daily yesterday. So I answered this one for you already. I know most say they'd be happy with 2-2, but be brutally honest with how confident you're feeling. I just want to be 3-1 going into the bye week. So no, I don't want 2-2. I think if you lose those first 2 games and then make it up against Dallas and Cleveland and go 2-2 into the bye, I don't think that's a successful 4 games. They need to be 3-1 coming out of those 4. I don't have any expectation that they go 4-0. It's great if they do, but it is certainly not my expectation that they go 4-0 in those first 4 games. That's 2 really great teams to start the season on 2 basically back-to-back games with Detroit and Washington, with Washington coming in on a Thursday. And then, Cleveland is on the road. There's still going to be some challenges in that game. That's your first road game of the season. That is one that you you have to win that game. Like that is coming off a mini bye week because you have the Thursday off the week before. You have a little bit more time to rest, get acclimated. You go to Cleveland. That should not be a good football team. You have to take care of business in that game. So that one needs to be a win. And then Dallas is not an easy game either. I think it's one where they play well. I think they are the better team than Dallas, but it's not a cakewalk first 4 games of the season. One of those should be a win, but I want to see them go 2-1 in the other 3. And if they can do that, I'm very, very satisfied with 3-1 going into that very, unfortunately, early bye week. Let's see. Parsons trade proposal. First, 4th, Emmanuel Wilson and Bullard for Micah Parsons, and a 4th, 4 years, 172. That signing bonus isn't even going to get you in the conversation, John. I can tell you that. Parsons would say no to that. That's the biggest one I can tell you. That signing bonus is going to get laughed at by his agent. That's going to need to be about 140, 120, somewhere in that range of guarantees. So Parsons and his agent are saying no to that. Packers probably say no. Dallas probably says no. I think we're 0 for 3. I think Dallas still wants to keep Parsons. I don't think Green Bay gives up that much, and Parsons is going to want more guarantees. So I do not like the odds of that coming to fruition, John, but I like the idea. Let's see. O-line depth is what worries me the most going into the season. I couldn't bear another year with a big injury to Love. Here's to hoping we can see Love kept safe and receivers not drop balls. That's a huge aspect of it, right? They have to protect Jordan, and guys have to catch and just make the plays that are there for them. It's been an issue, like going back to last year, obviously. And then so far in camp and preseason, the drop balls showed their ugly head again today. And it definitely has been an issue in camp and in preseason so far. So they've got to get that cleaned up. You've got to go make the plays that are out there for you. You cannot leave those plays out on the field. It's just, they're far too valuable and they're going to end up costing you. As far as the offensive line depth goes, what I will tell you is Green Bay's in a far better spot than most. To have 6 quality starters. Most teams don't have 5, right? They're trying and scrounging to try to get 5 good offensive linemen. I think Green Bay has 6, and then a 7th with a lot of upside and a lot of talent. And that's not the worst place to be in. Now, I think everyone, myself included, was hoping that numbers 8, 9, and 10 were going to be better. Travis Glover, Jacob Monk, Donovan Jennings, maybe John Williams, one of the rookie undrafted free agents. That's one of those players or two of those players were going to be really stepping up and, making a name for themselves and show that they're ready this season. And that just has not happened. And I do think the Travis Glover injury was definitely a big one for them when it comes to depth. But right now, after the top 7, there's a lot of concerns. The good news is you have 7. And I mean, Belton's a little bit of a question mark within that 7, but it's a workable 7. And then after that, you get to a lot more question marks. And how are you going to get through that? Hopefully Green Bay does not have to get to starting 3 backup offensive linemen. But if they do, there will be some question marks there, and they're going to have to kind of game plan around whatever 8th offensive lineman ends up in the game, whether that be Kadeem Telford, Jacob Monk, Donovan Jennings, or a guy that's not even on the team yet. There's probably going to be some growing pains in that situation. Sorry. Oh, bug just flew at me. Sorry. With the changes in the kickoff rules, teams need more serious special teams bodies. The roster should probably go to 54, in my opinion. Yeah, I think they probably should go up a spot, and you should probably be looking at a little bit more on the game day rosters as well. Maybe adding an extra player on the game day roster. I think those are all things that they absolutely should consider. We all love Zach Tom, no question about it. Beast Bumblebee, you are late, 10 push-ups. I'm all in at this point on any proposal for Parsons or Hendrickson. Goot said urgency is what matters now. Normally, I'm for how the Pack usually operate, but I also believe in windows, and we are in one. Pokey, you and I are in the same situation on that one. I don't know what Zach Tom did, but I love him too. You got in a big-time fight today. Yeah, he's not afraid of anyone, that's for sure. Hey, Andy, Golden Clips looked awesome today. Should I buy into the hype and buy his jersey or hold out for a Parsons jersey? Love the show. I would not hold out for a Parsons jersey. Probably not the best investment or waiting period. But, the Golden one's a good one to get. There's a lot of really fun young players out there that you could potentially get. But Matthew Golden, and who is at a number 22 wide receiver jersey, right? So I do like the uniqueness of it as well. Was JSN playing out of the slot and burning Bullard, or did our secondary in general not look up to the job? Didn't see any of it. Did not see a single JSN win on the day because I was watching the offense. So I know that per Mike Spofford, JSN and others, JSN had 3 touchdowns on the play, on the day, but I didn't get to see who he beat or anything like that. Seahawks still mad we murderballed them last season. Yeah, that might be true. Saw Rob tweeted 3 of 12 in the red zone. Yeah, we went through obviously all of those. Hope Matt LaFleur does a lot of 12 personnel this year. Need Luke to stay healthy and not trip, though. First of all, the trip thing is, I think, done. He, as I've talked about, he is playing to his speed much more, seems much more in control of his body. The game has seemingly slowed down for him a little bit, and that has not been an issue for him at all. So he is playing much more under control. But yes, do need to see him kind of ball out like he did today, and hopefully that is a sign of things to come. Got to fix that. That's just a little bit more even there. All right, that looks better. All right, we went through that. Let's see here. Sorry, 1 second. I might sneeze here. 1 second. All right, no sneeze came. Do you think the offensive line play calls will be more balanced this year with Golden and Musgrave back, or will it still be run heavy like last year? I think that they want to go balanced this year. I think that they want to be as balanced as possible. How I would put this, sorry guys, 1 second. All right, much better. Sorry about the wait there. Do you think the offensive play calls will be more balanced this year with Golden and Musgrave back, or will it be more run heavy like last year? I do think that they are going to try to be as balanced as they possibly can, because I think what they're going to want to do is dictate terms. I think if the other team is in too high safeties, I think they're going to want to be able to run the ball with Jacobs in their run game to try to force them out of those too high safety looks. And I think that's why they go get a little bit bigger on the offensive line, bring in some, hopefully guys that can be a little bit more people movers. And then on top of that, continue with Josh Jacobs the way that he was running a season ago. And then the same thing, if you have that safety rolled down to stop Josh Jacobs, I think they're going to want to be able to utilize play action either to their tight ends or outside of players like Watson when he comes back, Matthew Golden, and get some of those explosives outside. So what I think is Green Bay wants all of the players at their disposal and the ability to have the balance that they need to dictate terms of whatever the defense is trying to stop, they can go the opposite direction and do the other thing. So they want to stop the run, fine, we're going to throw it all over the field on you. Oh, you want to stop the pass, fine, we're going to run with Josh Jacobs all day. So I think there's going to be balance, but I think they're going to kind of play off what the defense is trying to do as well. It looks like our relative a-hole score is going up. It's definitely getting there. I'm going to get back to the chats in just a moment. I'm going to get to these super chats. Am I worried about Wicks and Reed? I'm worried that they're not out there yet. Hopefully they're out there soon. But yeah, if they're not out there week 1 against Detroit, that would be a pretty significant problem. I think Green Bay needs both of those guys week 1. And then you've got, again, Washington right away on Thursday Night Football right after that. So hopefully those guys can be back there next week. Sometimes, and this is not a commentary on any of the guys that are hurt. I want to be very clear on that. But sometimes you start getting into game weeks and you don't play if you don't practice, and some of those injuries all of a sudden heal up a little bit quicker, or they are a little bit more aggressive in getting out there. You let them rest a little bit more during training camp. But once it's game week, you got to go. We'll see if hopefully some of those injuries are in the category of, hey, once it's game week, we're getting ready to play, because you get 17 of those things guaranteed, and you got to go out there and perform, earn those paychecks, get those next big contracts. We'll see what that looks like when we actually get into game weeks. First super chat, Nathan, thank you so much. You talk about rookies being healthy in year 1. Where's your head at with this group so far? Thanks so much for all you do, and also bless you. Thank you so much, Nathan. I really appreciate that. It sucks. It flat out completely and utterly sucks. The good news is that their top 2 picks, Matthew Golden and Anthony Belton, have been healthy throughout. Knock on wood. That's great. And Belton's, got a lot of reps with, at left tackle and right tackle. That's great. And he needs those reps. Matthew Golden's got a ton of reps with Jordan Love in the ones. That's huge. That's going to be massive for his development as well. So those are some good signs. But Savion Williams has missed a lot of reps. Now you're going to get to the point where Baron Sorrell is missing a lot of reps. Colin Oliver has 0 reps, no OTAs, no mini camps, no training camp. That is brutal for a first-year rookie. So, you get to some of these, these draft pick, John Williams, not a single play. And he's probably going to be out. I mean, it wouldn't stun me at this point if he's probably just out for the year, and it's basically his rookie year is now 2026 for all intents and purposes. So that absolutely sucks. Who am I missing? Oh, I mean, the good news is Brinson had a really nice play today, by the way, that forced one of those interceptions. Micah Robinson has been healthy. So it's not entirely lost, but when you have Savion Williams, Baron Sorrell, Colin Oliver, and John Williams, 4 of your 8, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4 of your 8, 50% that have missed a ton of time, it really makes it hard to evaluate these rookies and get them off to a strong start. So it's a huge bummer, but you have to work through it. You have to get by it. And hopefully the fact that Belton and Golden have got a lot of those reps as the first 2 will help them. And hopefully they start on their journey in a very positive way with all the reps that they've been able to bank so far. Drew, thank you for becoming a new member. You are awesome. And Carlo Delgado coming up huge with a 10 Pack-A-Day podcast membership gift. So congratulations to all of you who got new Pack-A-Day podcast memberships from Carla. Appreciate you, Carla. All right. Let's see. Ben, in about 15 years when he's done and ready to retire after winning 2 or 3 Super Bowls. I don't know if this is about Jordan Love, but I hope that it is. Because when we've seen Love play fantastic in real games and in full practice, if one bad day in 7-on-7 was essentially one hand after surgery and missing practice time makes you question him, then I don't know. Yeah, by the way, he looked awesome the other day in 7-on-7s. I mean, beyond awesome. So do not read too much into this. Again, he's kind of going through the left hand thing, which may or may not have affected him. I thought a couple things. I didn't think there was, outside of the missed throw that he had to Nair in that red zone period, I thought it was much more receivers not getting a lot of separation and the Seattle defense making some big pass breakups. I didn't think Love looked particularly bad in that session. Again, outside of maybe the one missed throw to Isaiah Nair, there was no turnover worthy play in that session. he just didn't have anywhere to really go from what I saw. So I would pause a little bit on being too harsh on Jordan in that particular segment. I know for sure he's going to want that Nair ball back, but outside of that, I didn't see anything that I looked at him like, oh, what is Jordan doing here? Just didn't seem like he had a lot of places to go with the ball. All right, just getting to some member chats right now. A lot of Bears fans in the chats. We don't need that. How does one balance being a fan and work for the Packers? I can't imagine having strong negative opinions about a player and then essentially interviewing them, laughing out loud. All right, so great question. I've gone over this on multiple times before. I think the first thing that you need to know, Ethan, is I do not work for the Packers. I get credentialed by the Packers through Packer Report, but I do not work for the Green Bay Packers. So I have no affiliation directly with the Green Bay Packers. The second thing is that I actually don't do a ton of locker room stuff for a huge reason. I a lot of times don't want to make those connections or get to be friends with a player or, close with a player where like I can't go and do my grading the pack thing and be like, well, I don't want to give so-and-so a bad grade because maybe they're not going to talk to me in the locker room now or something like that. I kind of want to keep it, just balanced. And so I will get in the locker room every once in a while and just usually ask, more of a generic question. But for the most part, actually with what I do, just in how like I get here right away after practice, I actually don't have a ton of opportunity to get into the locker room anyway. In fact, the last time I was probably in the locker room was probably Jaden Reed's rookie year in either mini camp or OTA that year. Maybe it was training camp where I got in there and I asked some of the rookies a few questions that year. I think that was my last time actually. I haven't even been in the new locker room yet. So I actually do not spend almost any time, if at all, in the locker room. And mostly that's because of time limits and time restrictions that I have and things I need to get to. And also it has to do with just, again, choosing usually like press conferences over locker room stuff. But there is a piece of me as well that wants to sort of separate church and state when it comes to that stuff. The other thing that I will always tell you is prior to my job covering the Packers, or partially during it, my other job was as a director in human resources. It was recruiting, but I also have worked in human resources. Human resources, Andy, is very different than Andy Herman at the bar on Friday night. You would be like, well, how does that, Andy Herman, how does bar Andy Herman on Friday night go into the office and, be coherent and do his job in a very professional manner? Well, those are two very different types of experiences. When I'm a fan watching the TV at home, or when I'm doing something that is, again, just being a pure fan of in the stands at Lambeau, if I'm actually in the stands, that's fan Andy. When I'm on the sidelines covering the team, when I'm in a press conference covering the team, or if I'm in the locker room, or when I'm doing this, for the most part, when I'm doing this, there's a little bit more blurred lines, right? And you guys can usually tell, if I'm kind of more in professional mode or kind of fan mode. But when I'm doing all of that stuff, and specifically when I'm in the facility, in a locker room, in a press conference, that's professional. That's not me being a fan at that point in time. The fan hat is stayed at home. And the only time I utilize my fandom in those situations is to think like a fan of like, all right, what would I want to know in this situation? And that helps guide me as somebody that's covering the team in that capacity. So it's one of honestly the easiest things in the world to separate the fandom from, covering the team in a real legitimate capacity. And when I say there is zero blurred lines there whatsoever, I mean, there are zero blurred lines there whatsoever. It is not a difficult thing to do whatsoever. All right. Brandon Ref McManus clips are hilarious. Those were a lot of fun coming out of 1265 today on their social account. All right. I mean, to only have 7 is nuts because you have only 2 backups at that point. Need more depth on the offensive line than that because there are chances on more 2 offensive linemen getting hurt throughout the season. I think what he's saying is on initial cutdowns, you could go down to 7 and then, maybe again, just try to get 3-4 of those guys on the practice squad and call up 2 guys each week. So you still have or I guess 1 guy each week. So you still have your 8, but I think you're playing with a little bit too much fire in that situation. Cheese curds and caramel sauce. Ben, I think you are, I think you're flying a little bit too close to the sun, my friend there. Was Love taking snaps regular style or having to hand it to him? I thought he was at first getting snaps from center, but he was not. He was getting them handed to him. Do you think Rashawn Gary and LVN is enough on our pass rush? I'm very nervous about getting home with just 4. We're probably going to find out. We're probably going to find out early enough. And to be fair, it's not just on them. Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, the rest of the defensive edge rushers and interior defensive linemen have to be good enough as well. The rotations in totality need to be good enough. But make no mistake, a lot of the pressure to get home with 4 is going to be on Rashawn, Kenny, Devontae Wyatt, and LVN. And if those 4 can't get the job done, it's going to be a problem. Now you can do some other stuff, and Jeff's very, very good with finding ways to bring 4 that you don't know which 4 are coming, and still having 4 with 7 guys in coverage. And that's not nothing, but you would ideally like a world in which your 4 defensive linemen can just get home and be able to get to the quarterback. Like I said, we're about to find out very soon if that's something that they're able to do or not. Oh my God, Andy, that's so funny. I missed you on Nagler's chat. I actually thought I was in your chat yesterday too when I posted the comment. So long story short, Pokey, you posted the chat in Aaron's chat to Andy, and Nagler messaged me or tweeted it out and said, hey, Andy, can you get back to me? There's a chat for you on the Cheesehead TV chat. So I'm like, oh, I'll go and respond to him. So I went in the chat and responded to you in the chat in the Cheesehead TV chat yesterday. So good stuff all the way around. I appreciate you, Pokey. Not your money is a stupid argument in a salary cap league where blowing money on the wrong player matters more than, say, the MLB. I've talked about this before. There's a piece of like what Green Bay, like who they write their checks to and how much the money is for, like that like how those bank transactions take place and things like that. That should not matter. I don't care which players get paid, how much money and things like that. Go get your money, players, by all means. I do think in a salary cap driven league and the way that the NFL is set up, you have a finite amount of resources, right? So as a fan, you want to make sure that your team is using those draft picks and salary cap space, those finite resources, as best as you possibly can. So I don't really care the dollars and cents of it and what money is coming out of the Green Bay Packers bank account to go to another player. The actual payment of it, I don't care about. How they utilize their finite resources to build the team, I care about a lot. Would I do a 2026 first, 2027 first Quay Walker, and a 2027 second, and a 2026 fifth for Parsons? Who says no? Yeah, I think we're probably jumping the shark a little bit here. I would just say go and listen to the episode today, and I kind of try to ground it in reality as much as possible. I did, I think, 50 minutes on how these deals would potentially work, what it would take, what I would potentially be interested in, and really try to ground it in reality. I think the truth of the matter is until something happens, it probably is one of those conversations that is still fun. I wanted to cover it as in depth as I possibly could on today's show. So I would just say, if you haven't checked out that yet, I would highly recommend doing so. All right. Did I see your question yesterday about if Love and MLF were Luigi's Pizza, what flavor would they be? I know, very important questions here. I did not. And I feel Love would just be cheese, like just a simple cheese, ultra thin crust pizza. It's just very simple, always down to earth, never too high, never too low. Just a very classic, thin crust cheese pizza. Matt would be a Supreme. Like, I don't know why, but I just feel like Matt would be Supreme. There'd be a little bit of everything on there. And yeah, he's going to have a plan for how to utilize every single one of those ingredients. Andy, I'm so sorry I failed you and let my membership lapse. Jordan Love will have 4 Hail Mary completions to make up for it. All right. I believe you, Drew. Get after that membership. But no, never a requirement. I appreciate the thought, though. All right. Let's see. Thanking Carla for the gift. Love that. Packer fans helping Packer fans. Thank you so much for the membership. Every game this year, mainly because I don't want to buy all the separate apps to make sure I can watch every game this year. I can't find where to watch. I don't know what that's in regards to. My apologies. Everyone says I'm flying too close to the sun with that comment until they actually try it. Maybe. We'll see. What do I dip my cheese curds in? Usually nothing, but I just like them plain. But if I am going to, it's for sure marinara sauce, a really good marinara sauce. And I'm trying to find a list of top defensive ends that are still available, and I can't. Who's left out there or worth trading picks for besides the obvious 3 we looked at earlier today? There's nothing of note. You're just going to stick with the guys that you have unless you make a move for Hendrickson, Parsons, or Jadeveon Clowney. Those are the 3. There's nothing else of note really out there. Professional Andy, never heard of her. I just want drunk Andy. You and a lot of other people. Beast Bumblebee. Someday we'll make that happen. All right. Smiling Beagle. Andy, I'm planning on watching the All 22 for every game this year, mostly because I don't want to buy all the separate apps again to make sure I can see every game. Do you have any tips for watching? No, just do it. And you'll be surprised at how much you pick up really quick. I'll be honest. When I first started watching All 22, I don't know how many years it was, I was like, I was intimidated by the idea of it. Before I even threw it on for the first time, I'm like, all right, am I going to like know what's going on here? And like, it seems very complicated. It's not, it's just football. You're just seeing it from two different, it's just the same football thing that you're seeing on your screen. One from the like end zone, sideline end zone, and one from the sideline sky cam, and one from the end zone. And usually you get both sides of those. It's just football. So you're just getting to see it from different viewpoints. So no, there's nothing overly complex about it. You do have to learn certain like concept schemes, et cetera, if you want to be able to evaluate some of the things that are happening. But outside of that, it's just fun to see it, and you get to see actually what's happening in the secondary, where on the TV copy, you don't really get to see that or see what the quarterback and running back are actually seeing as a play develops. Whereas again, on the TV screen, you don't really get to see that. So it just enhances your view of the game. And there's nothing else overly complex or complicated about it. I also dip jalapeno soft pretzels and chocolate. Ben, man, I don't know. Just maybe some things to rethink about, my friend. Hopefully my NFL Plus works this season, so I can. NFL Plus is a nightmare. It's a nightmare, but I wish you best of luck with that. Andy, do you think the Packers have their own internal grading system? Absolutely. Unequivocally, yes. I'm curious to know how they make decisions while looking at performance, potential injuries, and all the other contexts available. Yeah, they have their own grading system that their coaches go through after every single game in practice. They're evaluated on everything. And then the GM is going to also evaluate based on upside, talent, things like that, where they're going through that in a little bit of a different lens. So as a coach, you're looking through, how do they execute the play? How is your technique? What do we need to clean up, et cetera? And did you do your job on the play? And did you do it successfully? A GM is going to look at it through the lens of, all right, these were some mistakes, but you can see the things that they're doing well. And if we can coach that out of them, the upside is, insane or whatever. There's two different lenses between watching it from a GM standpoint and watching it from a coach standpoint. All right, friends, do need to get out of here. 1,000,000,001 things to do. I still have to finish up grades from last week, this week has just gotten completely out of hand. I'm hoping to finish that by end of day tomorrow, so I can get either a quick video or at least an article out over on PackerReport.com. So trying to get those finished up from last week. I know nobody really cares anymore, myself included, but just for integrity's sake, I want to keep those up. So hopefully I can get to that sooner or later here. And then, of course, we've got the game coming up on Saturday, which looking forward to. No pregame show for Saturday. My hope is to be doing a live postgame show immediately following the game. I'm going to be a little bit late catching up to the game because I do have my son's soccer game going on through about the first 30 minutes of it or so, but we'll make it work. We'll catch it up and we'll get to that postgame show immediately after. Thank you guys so much for being here. I hope you enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, give those 5-star reviews. Check out those Pack a Day Podcast YouTube memberships. I'll be back tomorrow to break down everything that happened at practice, as well as happy hour at 3 p.m. Central Time. More Q&A for you guys. If you didn't get your questions in today, make sure you go tomorrow and check out happy hour. And hopefully I can get to as many of those tomorrow as possible. And then Saturday, like I said, post-game show, and we'll kind of go from there. Sunday members only Q&A as well. So make sure to sign up for those memberships. See you guys soon. But until next time, and as always, go Pack Go.